Today, I am making by far the most important, personal, and wacky video I have ever created. And it's pertaining to how my imaginary friend saved and changed my life. To begin with, so you fully understand what I'm talking about to the best of my ability, let me explain to you about this character. Now, he is this character I have had for many years, ever since I was around 8, 9, so over a decade at this point. To put it briefly, me and my primary school childhood friends would make these comics about these creatures called slimes. Now, these slimes are not the slimes from Minecraft or Terraria or Slime Rancher. They were our own thing. We called this group the Slime Club. That was kind of like the name of our friend group. And we each had our own character we created and played as, our own slimes, a representation of ourselves, you could say. Now, mine was called Universe Slime, or Uni, because they each represented a theme. And I loved space and astronomy and things related to that as a kid. So naturally, I decided, what should I pick? Well, space, universe slime, which got turned into a nickname, Uni. Now, I could go on for hours and hours about this lore because I still make these comics today, and I even intend to make an entire new channel explaining it, and it's getting expanded upon all the time, even as we speak. But that's not important for this topic. That's for another time. What is important is for you to know, well, the essence of this character. Now he is kind of the representation and a sort of archetypal figure in my comics and universe, representing essentially pure good, pure benevolence, and particularly imagination and creativity. He is basically the embodiment of that, of those traits, the embodiment of finding another way and turning something negative into something positive and something funny. And that is his role in the comics, you could say. He will basically solve any problem, any issue, any obstacle, any challenge, and any puzzle with imagination and creativity, and effectively diffuse, dismantle, nullify, and transform any negative or serious situation with silliness, with goofiness, with humour. Quite similar to the analogy I've used before of putting Mr. Bean in a scary or depressing movie, and you might notice a lot of parallels to my own philosophy and thought process and beliefs and way of life and values, all of that. You might seem, as I explained in my video about my sacred silliness philosophy, you will notice a lot of parallels to that because this is very much connected and very much in essence where a lot of that has came from. But now, in terms of personality, behaviour, temperament, etc., who he is, basically, who Uni is, and he's effectively, many people would call him an angel, but not demandingly so. He's everything good you can think of. He's kind, he's caring, he's selfless, compassionate, and empathetic. And that literally is just for the sake of it. Not because he was made like that, or thinks he's a saint or anything. He chooses it because of experience, because he sees the goodness it causes and has a knowingness that it's right, it's correct, it's good. Now, in the comics, he is a hero. He does present a kind of protector and guardian. He's saved a lot of people many times, not just on his own planet, but throughout the universe too, on his wacky adventures. And he is a magical being. In the lore, basically, these slimes are a hybrid race of this ancient magical race and humans, created by this mad scientist, basically. But I would say he's about maybe the 7th most powerful sort of entity in my comics, but he is an extremely moral. He bases power on the amount of positive impact you have on people and things and situations, not negative. I have this playlist on my channel, you might have seen it. It's called The Teachings of Bashar. Now, he has these epic quotes he often says, which I feel would fit very well for uni, but I'll frame them in my character's perspective, his perspective. So the first one is, the greatest power requires the lightest touch. Essentially, the softer, more gentle and quieter something is, the more powerful it is. And he embodies this. He'll help, save, never force or dominate or conquer or demand. And he'll always do what he believes is right, no matter what, no matter of anything else, or anyone else. He doesn't ask for witness or reward or recognition or validation. He's very humble. To him, he's not a hero. He's not a saint. And he certainly isn't a god. He's just an everyday slime, literally just being himself, acting on his passions and things. And the second quote is, used in a wording for my character, of course, is, imagine Uni is the one saying this, and it is, I'll do his voice too. Why not? Perhaps I am so powerful I could destroy your entire planet. But that is not what makes me powerful. The fact that I would never do that is what makes me powerful. So that sums up his philosophy, his way of life, what he represents and believes. But remember, he is still literally, in essence, his mind and soul, and this goes for all the slimes, are still extremely human. They're just alien looking on the outside, magical aliens on the outside, goofy little humans on the inside, basically. So he isn't perfect, he isn't flawless. In the past, in the comics, he was quite reckless and naive at times. You could say not taking anything too seriously, too much, but like everyone, he learns and grows from experience. But despite all this wonderfulness, the most important and key thing to me would be his empathy, his understanding, getting issues, getting emotions, forgiving. He doesn't force, he guides. He doesn't force you to be good or insist that he's right, or that his way is the only way of doing things and being, and like the ideal being. None of that at all. He knows there are many, many ways to do things. Different things work for different people. It needs to be taken on a case-by-case basis. But he shows unconditional love, compassion, care, and is just a supportive force of positivity and humour. He gets problems and issues. He understands people's darkness, and he knows how you defeat darkness as well by not defeating it. You can't fight it or destroy it. You have to accept it for what it is. That is a part of who you are, and you need to transform it and change it. And that can only be done if they have a willingness to change it and have the right mix of people and environment. Like, even the villains in the comics, he doesn't react to them. He'll stop them. He'll defend people whenever necessary, but he won't kill them. He never gets angry or frustrated or impatient or fed up with them. He'll just be like, "You're still like that? Okay. I'll be here once you're ready to talk." And once, in one of the comics, he even said, one of my favourite quotes, talking to kind of the main villain, "Allow me to help you help yourself, because I can and I will help you, but we need to work together, because I promise I will do everything in my power to help you and won't stop helping you until it is guaranteed that all your negativity, all your anguish and anger and suffering, all of it will at long last and permanently come to an end." So, as you can see, he's very determined in what he does. He literally won't stop until he finds a solution, but that all is the best way I can describe him, describe Uni to you all. But now, the second main part of this video. So, how did this character, this imaginary being, however brilliant he may be, how could he have possibly saved and changed your life? You might be wondering, surely that can't be true. Surely that's not real or possible. It's just made up, right? Well, no. I'm about to describe to you how this character has had a more profound impact on my life than maybe even any human or anything else in my life. Now, that might sound completely crazy and like I've lost the plot, but let me explain. And here comes the hardest part for me, because this is incredibly personal and only being explained to a handful of the most trusted people I have in my life, but I want to share it here because I feel like this is important. So here it is. When I left primary school, by no one's fault per se, just by pure circumstance, I lost contact with all my friends. Now, that is the biggest blow I've ever had in my entire life. I relied on them for everything, for happiness, for support, for almost everything positive in my life. So when they all unexpectedly left it, and there was nothing I could do about that, everything didn't just spiral, it took a dive off a cliff into a black hole. My mental and physical health just deteriorated. Now, there's a lot I can say on this, and I take responsibility that some of this state was self-inflicted, but it was also very much because of the mismanagement of my school and family, and just generally the way schools are set up, at least here in the UK. They're just the worst. They're regimentary. They're like a prison. They care about grades over their students and just are completely incompetent when it comes to issues. Let alone the fact you don't even learn anything important, and you're not going to have good mental health, energy or motivation to even learn anything to begin with. Like, it's supposed to be, education is supposed to be done, in my opinion, in an engaging, fun, exciting and supportive environment, especially for kids, because that's how they work, that's what they thrive on. But instead, it's like a lecture and stresses them out with homework and exams. That's why I've genuinely learned more from YouTube than I ever did in school. And I'm sure that's the same for a lot of people, at least here. Plus, the ridiculous schedule. If you're a night owl, naturally fall asleep at 2 a.m. Sucks to be you. You're getting up at 5 a.m. for 5 days a week and going to prison for 7 hours. It's just completely unfair. And the exams, what was Einstein's quote? Get an elephant, a fish, a spider and a monkey. Completely the wrong animals in order, I know. But get them to climb the same tree. That's essentially what they do with exams. Get completely different people to do the exact same thing, and then are surprised when some do better than others, and you get often shamed and ridiculed and told you're less intelligent for that when you're not whatsoever. But instead it should be individualized, because many kids, they have wonderful talents that don't get to see the light of day. And it even creative things like art are very restrictive. And by the way, have autism, ADHD, bipolar, depression, anxiety. Well, we're gonna try repress and blame you for that and those traits, and not put hardly any effort or diagnose you. Don't rock on your chair. I was told that a lot, and well, it's a stim. It helps me focus. It helps me concentrate. 90% of the time, I didn't even know I was doing it, and I was being told off for it. But yeah, enough about my clear and proud resentment for the horribleness and insanity that is school. So, as you can probably imagine, my life turned to S word for me, and I went into Great Depression and mental health issues. I got no support for it at all. My family also, sadly, weren't the best help. They just kind of ignored it and were like, get on with it. An unfortunate mentality a lot of old people still have towards young people, because it's the way they were taught. They never got any support or anything like that. But anyway, even though I was asking for help, it never really came. So I naturally stopped trusting them, stopped trusting everyone, stopped relying on them. Physically, as you can imagine, I didn't care about myself or my life. So I had awful hygiene. I wouldn't wash my hair or cut my nails in weeks or brush my teeth, let alone sleep. So I was bullied and made fun of relentlessly. No one really wanted anything to do with me. or wanted to involve me. 90% of the kids were just horrible, obnoxious teenagers. Me and my friends call them type of people cuckoos. And to the surprise of no one, the school did absolutely nothing about that. And may I just briefly say that it's not a coincidence that some of my friends that have been homeschooled are some of the nicest, kindest and smartest people I have ever met. I don't think that's a coincidence. But anyway, so it got to the point where I really began reflecting how I was being treated to the outside. I became cold, I became nasty, I started to, hate everyone and everything around me, because it was the way I felt I was being treated. But this quickly and quite quietly turned into something very not good. I basically became this sadistic, narcissistic, even psychopathic person, even more than the other teenagers. Now this wasn't a joke, though. I seriously, at some points, I seriously wanted to hurt them. I wanted to hurt people, and I thought I enjoyed it. I really was becoming an evil person, in all honesty. And to make an already terrible situation worse, then came COVID, aka, for me, months wrapped up in my own mind and negativity. Everything I was feeling just got reinforced tenfold, and at the end of that, my grandmother sadly crossed over. Now this is where it got really bad. This is where it got dangerous. This is where rock bottom had officially been reached, if not worse. I basically went through psychosis. Now, that was never officially diagnosed. But looking back, so many things, so many traits I was feeling and believing line up with that so well that I believe I did, but I'm not going to say I absolutely did if I don't know it. But I thought I was in a Truman Show torture chamber, basically. To me, I believed everything was a carefully designed prop to ensure I suffer as much as possible. You may ask why. I don't even remember. I just remember believing everyone hated me and everyone was in on it, you could say. I spiraled and hated and got more paranoid and insane as the days went on. I made plans, horrible plans, involving myself and other people. I was on the absolute brink, being held onto sanity by a singular hair, and that hair represented something, more someone, uni. Through all of that, I had him and my slimes and my slime comics to keep me going. But not just that, he kept me emotional and moral. And when I listened, every time I thought of doing something bad, he popped into my head as a voice of reason. Like, are you sure? This isn't right. And oftentimes it snapped me back to reality. I'd feel guilty and sad over what I was like, over what I was doing, over what I became. But I needed to hear that. I needed to realise that. But This was the case in pretty much every instance. I would be like, hang on, uni would not be like this. You wouldn't want me to be like this. And it'd work briefly until I pulled myself back into the darkness or tried to justify it, as I did many times. Well, at some points, I even tried to get rid of him or get rid of uni or demonize him, but it never worked. His image was absolute, never changing, unending support, unending patience, unending love. Essentially everything I needed. And at the point it got really bad, like where I was about to hurt someone or myself, I'd just think of uni. And he was like, no, I'm not letting you do that. I'm not letting you throw this amazing life away. Not on my watch. You are here to stay. He kept a spark of joy and hope alive in me. I never felt I was alone despite hating everyone else because I had him. A guiding light, like a literal star, always there, only covered, only blocked, only clouded when negativity clouded my own view. But this force of goodness, of opposition he represented relentlessly would be what ultimately pulled me out of that state, that insanity, that dark night of the soul, you could say. Because one day, I don't remember why or when, I don't remember the exact cause, but I snapped out of it. I snapped out of that state. I had that eureka WTF moment of like, what? It horrified me and shocked me and disgusted me. What I'd become, basically what I was doing, what type of person I was. And it took a long time to really recover from that state, the effects of that state and all the self-loathing it's caused. I've really had to forgive myself. And it's been a long journey, and it's still something that I'm working on even today. But after I finally surrendered to uni's sentiment, you could say, me and my life rapidly changed for the better. I started being positive and kind and compassionate. I was filled with optimism and a zest for life again. I finally got the confidence to speak to people and make some friends for the first time in years. I got back into my passions and joined a Discord group where I made my first online friends, and some months later met my friend at the youth club. I finally left that awful school, which was a big help, and it certainly hasn't been easy, but ever since then, things have been on the up and shown no signs of stopping. Every day I get a little bit wiser, a little bit kinder, and grow and learn even more from experience. And whatever this is, doesn't really matter. In psychology, it may be described as an internal defense system. In spirituality, it may be described as a guide. To others, simply very raw imagination. And to some, maybe even a real entity trying to help me. What's important is that it worked. It is real to me, for me. Whether this still would have happened without this character, Uni, I don't know. And I doubt it, because it is unique to myself and my life and my experience. It has any other people had a similar thing happen to them, with their own sort of character or anything similar, then I'd be seriously interested in knowing. Please let me know. One thing I do know for sure is that it is me in some way, shape or form. Uni is me. It is a reflection, a spark, an indestructible core of who I am, who I really am, and what I represent. I try my best to be like Uni and do what he does. Is he a representation of my ideal self, of my future self, of my soul, of Nirvana? Maybe. But I wouldn't have ever changed without him. I wouldn't have my life I do now without him. I would have lost myself, ruined my life, and wasted it. My personality, my beliefs, my values, my temperament, my talents, my friends, all would either be gone, wasted, or twisted into the complete opposite of what they are today. I would have been evil, whilst today I try my best to be the opposite of that. I try to be pure-hearted to the best of my ability. It's kind of funny because my friends and my family a lot of the time will walk past drawings of him, of Uni, in my room and on my door. Sometimes they'll ask who he is, but if only they knew that small, strange little figure is the entire reason I'm still here and why I am the way I am. Without it, you wouldn't even know me, let alone recognise me or be friends with me. But today, he still exists, of course, even more so, I'd say. I'm working on 2 slime comics as we speak, and I will share it all in time, but that is why I say he saved and changed my life, because he did. And because of that, I will always be kind, caring, selfless, compassionate, understanding, supportive, protective, creative, imaginative, goofy, light-hearted and silly like he is. I will always have this character with me and everything he represents, and be making these comics for the rest of my life because it's why I have a life and it's what I love. I will own it and be myself proudly and without shame, and if anyone ever insults it or tries to make me stop it or have me choose them over it, it will fail each and every single time. I will choose Uni and be there for him every step of the way, as he's done for me, regardless of anything or anyone else. He will always be with me. So, Uni for life. Woogie. And I say all of this, and just for him to probably stop me. He'd be like, no, I didn't do anything for you or make any decisions for you. That was all you. You chose to change and be better. I was simply a guide. I couldn't have done it if you didn't listen to me. And to that, I would say thank you, Uni, and thank you all for listening. It means a great deal to me if you've listened through all of that, because it's very personal and serious and important to me. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, and if anyone else has went through anything similar. But laugh hard, run fast, be kind, have a wonderful day, and ta-ra for now. A Woogie.